How's it going? Only half of my face is lit up. Hold on. We have a lighting emergency. Now? Yeah, there we go. How's it going? So, we're all moved into the new house, and I officially am workshopless. But while I don't have a workshop, I do have a messy office. And since we're workshopless, any projects I've had to do have been very 3D printing heavy, because that's what I have readily accessible right now. So, yeah, welcome to my 3D printing in an office video. So, obviously the most important thing that needs to get done at this house is integrating everything with Home Assistant. And there are two things that I would like to add to my instance. I don't think that there's a commercially available solution for either of them. One of them, I want to measure the level of the water in the cistern, so I always know how much water is in there. The other one, I want to measure the level of the propane. So, propane tank. Don't mind the wind. It seems living out here, this is just going to be a fixture of the videos from now on. So, the last time I mention it. Now, I've had this idea for a while, but I never had a place to implement it. You know, when you want to check the level of a tank and you kick it and you can kind of tell from the noise that you hear? I want to make a machine that hits this in a very repeatable way and then measures the frequency of the sound, and we can infer the fluid level from that. Now, no clue if this is gonna work, but sure beats coming out here and reading a gauge like a caveman. Let's get printing. Here we have parts. I'm not used to this whole making a couple parts taking multiple days thing, so I kind of got to refigure out what the heck I was thinking. I guess removing the support material is a good first step. Those Creality auto supports are no frickin' joke, man. I kind of hate it. This is our main little base plate. Base plate gets a cute little hammer. So we need to drill a hole in the handle of this hammer. Yeah, that was a little sketchy. Maybe I should get a vise in here. No, the more terrible it is for me to work in here, the more motivated I am to build a shop, so we'll keep it the way it is. Since all of my small parts storage is under a pile in a shed, we're gonna use this as the hinge for the hammer. There you go. We got a little brass hammer. I drilled my hole slightly off center, so this is where it sits tight. That's no frickin' bueno. I'm sad to say that I am in a position where it is easier to 3D print a spacer than to just find a frickin' washer. How embarrassing. Damn it, I told it not to calibrate, but it's calibrating. So this 22-second print just turned into a 5-minute print. When I say it out loud, it doesn't really sound like that big of a deal. I'll stop complaining. Alrighty, we got our cute little 3D printed washer. It actually took 2 of them in there, and the hammer is backwards, but beggars can't be choosers, man. Oh wait, I just had a genius idea. Look at that. All fixed. Now, we need a way to make this hammer do its hammer thing. So, here we got a servo. This is a continuous 360 servo, so we'll be able to tell it to continuously go 360 degrees. I guess I didn't need to explain that. It kind of explains itself. This is the part that's going on there. It's a cute little Fibonacci spiral that I tried to do completely from memory. That was rough. We got there though. So this can be mounted to the servo. You can see we've got our little spiral. It brings the hammer up and then drops it. I mean, the motor will be spinning faster than that, so it should drop. I don't think it's gonna actually hit the frickin' thing. Dang it. How do I fix that without reprinting this whole base? That's annoying. It's been like 3 weeks since that last shot. This is why I can't be a 3D printing channel. Anyway, here, we have our thingy. We're about 1 minute into this new shot, and now we get to find out, do we have to postpone this project for another 2 weeks? All right, moment of truth. Oh yeah, look at that. That is well and truly hitting the tank. We can keep moving. Here's a problem. This part hits. Maybe the servo is supposed to be flipped this way. And maybe that would have worked on the last model too. You're telling me the whole reason that I had to postpone this project for so long is that I'm dumb and don't even know how to follow my own plans? Sweet. Would you look at that? It's perfect. And at least now we know for certain that the hammer is well and truly gonna hit. We got quite a bit of extra stick out here. There's some other things that I changed on this one too. So we're keeping it. Plus it's a nice cool blue. This is basically how the device is gonna function. We've got our servo that is gonna hit the tank with a pretty consistent amount of force. And then we can measure the vibration from the tank and hopefully be able to infer the amount of fluid in the tank. Now to measure the vibrations, I've got 2 different types of vibration sensors. There's this one, which uses a piezoelectric thingy, and I think I'm gonna try this one first because I technically don't own the propane tank. It belongs to the propane company, so I can't like actually mount anything to it. And also, how the heck would I mount anything to it anyways? Can't really weld on a propane tank. I mean, you can once. This is going to mount with little magnets glued into these holes so it can just click right on top. And with the piezoelectric sensor, it's going to fit inside this hole. And I think we can just stick a magnet on the back of it to hold it in place. Because the piezoelectric works by the material actually flexing to get a voltage change. I don't think we're going to be dampening any of that by having a magnet on it. So, I guess next thing's next. We need to fit all of these parts inside of this thing. And I definitely did not plan for any of this, so that's classic. I think that this big old boy is gonna have to go sideways somewhere. You know what that means? More 3D printing! No, I'm gonna try and do it some other way. I'm sick of 3D printing. You ready for this move? Look at that. See, who needs 3D printing? It fits, right? Oh yeah. Now we can mount our little vibration sensor guy. 3D printing is for frickin' suckers, man. Alright, vibration sensors in, and then for the ESP32, we're just gonna use the old tried and true dead bug method. Beautiful. Before I wire this thing up, might as well install the magnets real quick. I got some 6-minute epoxy, because 5-minute epoxy is too stressful. Alright, now I'm gonna wire this thing up and we can take it outside and test it out. So we have our ESP32 and attached to it is our hammer servo guy and our vibration sensor. The ESP32 tells the motor to do 1 full rotation so the hammer will hit the tank, and the vibration sensor will measure for a couple seconds and report that information back to us. And the last board that we stuffed inside of this thing is just a solar charge controller, which has a battery and a solar panel to charge said battery. So hopefully that's enough to keep this whole thing running. Man, I haven't done an Arduino project in a long time. This took longer than it should. This is a 360-degree continuous servo, and the reason I got that is I thought that I could send it positions like a normal servo, so I could just say 360 degrees and it would turn 360 degrees. That is not the case. It still uses the servo library on Arduino, but if you feed it 180, it goes full speed one direction. If you feed it 0, it goes full speed the opposite direction. And if you feed it 90, it stops. So it's kind of just like a normal motor. So whatever, we're still gonna use it. I don't want to reprint anything. I put a little magnet on the side of our little Fibonacci guy, and then this right here is a Hall effect sensor. So we're just spinning the motor until the Hall effect sensor detects that magnet, and then it stops. And right now it's just on a 5-second loop, but in actual machine, we'll just call this once every time we need to make a reading. Alright, now I'm gonna actually finish wiring this thing and we can go take some measurements at the tank. We've got everything hacked together. This can just click right onto the propane tank. We've got all this ready to go. I've set it so that I can control it just from commands over the serial monitor for now. That way we can just get the numbers that we need, and it will actually make the equations to actually do the measuring later. And that's if this works. I still don't know if this is gonna work. I guess first things first, turn on the battery. It'll zero out the servo. So it's always gonna be in the same starting position. Now, I guess we can go ahead and plug it into the laptop. Okay, so we've got a couple commands. If we do fire, it fires the hammer. Self-explanatory. Now, if we do vibes, it gives us 3 seconds of readings from the piezo sensor. If we do both, I mean, I'm sure you can figure it out. And I'm reading nothing from the piezo sensor. Damn. Seems like it's connected. Let's go again. Nothing. So, that was a little bit disappointing, huh? I don't think that these sensors have the resolution that we want, but I gave it a little bit of thought and a little bit of research. I think what will work for me is just a microphone. Obviously, we're getting the tank to ring at a certain frequency, and we just need to measure what frequency that is. So, I don't know why I didn't start with a microphone. So, I went ahead and ordered those, and I guess now we do the thing that 3D printing channels do best. We wait. As you can see from the mess here and the mess here, I've kind of been banging my head against this thing trying to get it to work for a while now. But we got the microphone, I got it installed. Here's a cute little animation to get you all caught up to speed. Exactly the same, but replace the piezo sensor with a microphone. Did we really need an animation for that? Now then, let's go over the less animatable parts of this whole thing. So we're using a Max 9814 microphone, which has an analog output. So basically, as it's hearing sound, it gives different levels of analog values. Now, in order to get something usable from that, we're using a Fast Fourier Transform, which is basically an algorithm that will take a signal and parse the frequencies out of it. I'm not the guy to explain that. It's very cool and complicated and mathy. If you want to learn more about FFT, this 3 blue 1 brown video is pretty awesome. Now, luckily there's an FFT Arduino library, so we don't gotta think about any of that stuff. We can just run our analog signal through the FFT library and get the dominant frequency out of that. Then, in order to read it, we take that dominant frequency and we send it over MQTT to Home Assistant. That's where we're at now. So, we can play a frequency off of the frequency generator. We come over here, we publish our command, hammer fires, and then we get the frequency back. And we'll run it one more time. Look at that consistency, man! Not sure why I didn't explain this in the clip, but yes, the frequency that we're getting back is incorrect, but what matters is that it's consistent for different frequencies. We're not making a frequency measurer, we're making a thing to differentiate between different frequencies. Does that make sense? Anyway, back to the video. It's the exact same number! That's good! Sorry about that. I think you can now imagine how frickin' annoying it was to be testing this with different frequencies playing the whole time I'm waiting. I still hear them. Anyway, let's go test this on the tank. We've got our little machine on the tank. We don't have to mess around with bringing the laptop out here or anything, so that's nice. So I'm gonna open up Home Assistant, start listening to the topic. Now it is a little bit windy outside, so I don't know if that's gonna mess with the signal. We're gonna have to put the cover over it to get a proper signal out of this thing, but that's no fun. I wanna watch it go bing. Anyway, we can fire it. And we got 114 hertz. Try one more time. And we got about 80, so the consistency isn't terrible, but hey, it's working. Let's go put the cover on it. All right, anyway, make some room. It seems to be working. I don't know if I showed this to you yet, but this is the cover that goes on top. I went ahead and I glued the solar panel on top of it. This little angle for the relief for the hammer kind of works out because it points south on the tank. So, you know, that's the proper way to point a solar panel. Now, getting this attached is not going to be super easy because the solar panel didn't come with the longest wires in the world, but alright, we're attached. Now we just get the cover on, make sure there's no wires poking out anywhere. I should probably turn it on. And then keeping with the theme of not having any frickin' proper hardware, we're gonna hold it together with wood screws. Very nice. Everything seems to be in order. Let's go put it on. Alrighty, we've got our inconspicuous little box that the propane company totally won't say anything about. I still just don't really believe that it's working, but it seems to be. So I'm gonna fire it a couple times and get the readings off of it. I can't talk to the camera while I do that because it messes up the microphone, so bear with me. Okay, so 180 hertz seems to be where we're at right now, and where we actually are at is about 60%. So now all we gotta do is use a whole bunch of gas and fire this thing semi-regularly and graph the correlation between the frequency that we record on this thing and the actual level of the tank. And hopefully it's just a linear relationship. I don't really see why it wouldn't be something simple like that, but you know, physics is weird. The one thing that there may be a problem with is that I have it set to where I can send it a command over MQTT, which means it has to always be listening, which, you know, that will consume some power for sure. And consume some power it did. Literally by the end of that day, I found that the setup as it is wasn't gonna work. It just consumed too much power to be waiting for a command at all times, so I redid the code like this. Set everything up like normal, fire the hammer, measure the frequency, turn on the Wi-Fi and connect to MQTT, send the information over MQTT, disconnect from Wi-Fi and MQTT, and then we set the ESP to deep sleep for 24 hours. That certainly feels like the end of the video, doesn't it? Well, let me tell you, that was months ago. Look at him. So young and vibrant. Now, part of the reason that it took so long is we need to take measurements over a long time. So, you know, I don't really know if the thing is working for at least a week or two. Even then, it's like the propane tank goes down like 1 point per week. So it takes a while to actually know if things are correlated, which they really were for the first couple weeks. Here's our first graph with the machine as it is in this last clip. We're starting out with a little bit of spread, but fairly consistent, and then suddenly, remedy. I don't know what changed, but I could not replicate it for the life of me. I tried rewriting the code for how we're taking samples. I tried increasing the sample rate. I swapped the microphone for it's like an INP something or other. None of that worked. I got to a point where it was accurately reading frequencies, and I got to points where it seemed very consistent. But none of that lasted, and I would always end up in some position where I wake up one morning and the value is 300 100% of the next day. So I'm not sure what was causing that inconsistency, and I was not sure how to get rid of that inconsistency until one day it hit me. More dumb is more better. Rather than doing all this fancy schmancy math and trying to measure the frequency of the tank, because there's probably multiple frequencies ringing when that tank gets hit. The other aspect of the sound that will change as the volume of fluid changes is the duration of the ringing. I rewrote the program, and now here's the graph over the last couple weeks. Consistent. Now it could still go crazy like it did the last time, but I have much more confidence because measuring the duration is far less complicated than trying to figure out the frequency. So we can take our data over the last couple weeks and graph it against the actual level of the tank, and from that data we can approximate a line and figure out the function for that line. So now that we have this equation, we can take the duration values that the machine gives us, stick it in the Y spot, and that'll give us the tank percentage. Yay! We got there, guys, we got there. Now, that equation assumes that it is a linear relationship between the two numbers, and there's no real way to figure out if that is correct without more testing. So over the next couple months, I'm going to continue logging everything until we can refine this down to a perfect equation, be it linear or logarithmic or whatever other mathy whatevers there are. But I feel pretty confident that we got to a place where this is actually going to work. So that's awesome. Now, this video was supposed to be a double whammy. I was going to do the propane tank and the water tank in this video, but video's getting kind of long, man. I think I'm calling it here. So water measurer video is coming out next, and yeah, that's what I got for you this week. If you like what you saw, leave a good old dinger. Think about subscribing. If you can, support me on Patreon. Links are in the doobly-doo. Any support on Patreon is so appreciated, and I appreciate all you guys that are already over there. To be able to make videos full time is an absolute dream, and Patreon is the way to get there. So thank you guys very much. I deeply appreciate all your support, and yeah, thank you for watching.